Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Cherwell Advanced Practitioner webinar this morning, doing more with Cherwell notifications. Our presenter today is Eric Kruger, one of our company owners and senior consultant with Stratacom. This session is being recorded, so if you would like to rewatch it or share it with others within the next day or so, we'll be uploading it to our website and sending an email out to the session. If you have questions as we go along, feel free to put those either in the chat um, or unmute and ask Eric yourself. We like to keep things interactive, so we will be taking questions as the session moves along. And then, of course, at the end, we'll open it up for questions and answers as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to tell you a little bit about Stratacom and dig into our content today.
Okay, thanks, Laura. I'm going to share out my screen. I've got a little PowerPoint. I'll start. So welcome to our advanced practitioner call. We try to do these every so often on just kind of advanced Cherwell topics. I think our goal is monthly, but seems like we can never fit 12 of these in. So if we come across something interesting, we try to have one so everybody can learn about some of these new things. So what I'm going to talk today about is something I've been working on. Some of it I kind of fell into accidentally maybe, and some of it is because of some other stuff we're working on. But I'm going to talk about new types of notifications you can send from Cherwell. So we'll go over that. Just different types of notifications. The big difference is the interactivity of these newer notifications that you can do. So our agenda today, I'll tell you a little bit about Stratacom in case you don't know. We'll go over a typical notification flow, new types of popular notifications, which include, and then we'll kind of deep dive into 2 out of the 3 of these. But Microsoft Actionable Messages in Outlook, we'll go into those. And then we'll look at a Microsoft Adaptive Cards in Teams and how to send messages there. And then we'll take a quick look at Google App Sheet in Gmail. App Sheet in Gmail is pretty similar to Actionable Messages in Outlook. So we'll just briefly touch on that in case there's any corporate Gmail users out there. So a little bit about Stratacom. We're founded in 1997. We're partnered with Avanti, Technology Alliance and professional services partner. We do have a pretty large ITSM consulting team focused solely on Avanti Neurons and Cherwell. I think we've got like 16 certified consultants right now. And they're all employees in the US. We don't have any offshoring or anything or use any contractors. Just a reminder, we do have some add-on tools for Cherwell. We've got native mobile client, Kanban boards, which people love, Gantt chart, which kind of comes with Kanban, but if you're into project management, the Gantt chart is kind of a cool way to manage projects, your Cherwell projects, or change tasks or incident tasks, or even look at all your projects. And then the newly released SmartBot, which is kind of how I got into some of these newer notifications, is developing the SmartBot. So those are some of our add-on products for Avanti and Cherwell. So I just want to talk a little bit about typical notification flow and what I've seen with customers. So usually you get an update in Cherwell that triggers an email. So I've got one of my consultants sent me this email from one of our customers. I think I blanked out any important information in here. So looks really nice, this email. The email sent out with a description of what needs to be changed, what needs to be done, and then user typically clicks on a link to be taken to either the full client or the portal. So kind of just a message basically that allows you to click a link, and in here you can actually click a link and go to the incident, which will take you to either the portal or the web client or the technician client, depending on how you set the link up and who the email is meant for. So really just notifying people and letting them know that they have a ticket or a ticket's been updated or change of ticket status. So in kind of the newer notifications, a lot of these notifications are interactive interfaces. So what you can do with these notifications is instead of clicking a link to go somewhere, you can actually send a customer or a technician an email or something in Teams that they can act on and do right from there. So they don't have to leave their email client or Teams. So wherever they receive the notification, whatever they need to do, they can do from right there. They don't need to jump into Cherwell to actually do it. So, modern business applications include features to talk to each other. So Outlook can talk to any application that supports a REST API post event right from the email. And Teams is the same way. It can also talk to any app that supports a post. And Google App Sheet is the same way. So a lot of these interfaces now, under the covers, you're actually performing actions that just do simple HTTP posts with JSON bodies, and it makes it really easy for kind of these frameworks to communicate with business applications. So kind of in this newer world, maybe users don't want to pop out to a business specific app that they don't use all the time. But users, they prefer to use like common applications. So most customers would rather be able to do the action from their email or from Teams rather than jump into like Cherwell client or even in the Cherwell portal to do something, update, change the status of a ticket or add a note or journal entry to a ticket, add a comment. So these tools, they offer the capabilities of interacting directly with ITSM tools like Avanti and Cherwell. So why not take advantage? So I think most of the customers I've talked to for the most part are Microsoft customers. They're on Office 365, so they have Microsoft Outlook and they've got Microsoft Teams. There's a few Gmail customers out there also. So, but I think the bulk are kind of on this Microsoft stack. So some of the messaging alternatives we'll look at today, I kind of talked about these already, but we'll look at the Microsoft Actionable Messages, adaptive cards in Microsoft Teams, and then we'll touch on Google App Sheet for Gmail. And you can see what these look like over on the right. So I've got a little bit of slideshow and then a little bit of demo. So I'm going to kind of jump back and forth. So I'm going to talk about actionable messages first. Actionable messages and adaptive cards in Teams, they're essentially the same underlying technology. So if you kind of dig into these, you'll find out everything's based on this adaptive card or card concept that Microsoft has got. And they used to be more separate, and now they've kind of brought these together. So you can actually write these cards or design these cards to work with either Teams or email. The cards I've got for Teams that I'll show you for Teams and email, they're still kind of the older variety, so they won't work with the other. But it's mostly just how the actions are done. But generally, they'll work. You can design the cards and they'll work the same. So Microsoft introduced Actionable Messages in 2016. So it's been around for a while. I was surprised because I just kind of got into Actionable Messages a little over a year ago, kind of discovered what they were. It's a Microsoft technology. It allows developers to embed actions directly into emails or notifications. It eliminates the need to redirect the user to an external website, allowing for effortless text completion directly from within Microsoft Outlook. So that's right from Microsoft, how Microsoft described it when it first came out. So how do they work with Cherwell? So Cherwell sends an actionable message from a one-step, basically. Cherwell can send emails. Unfortunately, Cherwell HTML emails are not compatible with actionable messages. I tried to get it to work, but the way these actionable messages work is all the code's in the header of the email. And what happens with Cherwell's HTML email is that they actually replace the header when they send it with their own stuff. So even if you put stuff in the header, it just overwrites it with its own stuff. So all this card stuff's in the header. It's not actually in the body of the email. So like I said, I couldn't get it to work. So the way that you send these is actually you send the email via the Graph API. So it's probably the way that Cherwell and Avanti is going to go anyway. For email is more like the way that I'm doing it for these actionable messages because of the security. So And it's really easy to set up. Like it's super simple to send an email via Graph API, especially these cards. So it's really two-step process. You get your token, and boom, you send your email. So it's super easy. And then what happens is the email goes out through Graph, and Outlook receives the message and displays it to the user. So even though we're sending via the Graph API, we're essentially just sending an email like normal. So the Graph API actually routes it through the Office 365 Exchange server. So Outlook receives the message and displays it to the user. And the message might look like this. So on the right, you can see what the message looks like. The first the first button, it's hard to read. I don't know. It's easy to read on the screen, but this screenshot just change status. The second one's change priority, and the third one's choose an assignee. So you can have options in these emails, or you can have them set all three. I think in the example, um, it's an either or, but you can really have them update as many fields as they want. So the user makes the change right in the email, and they click the submit button. So you see I've got that highlighted there. And then it submits it back to Cherwell. So the email actually does a post back to Cherwell's webhook. So and the reason I got into these is we added to our mobile and Kanban framework an actionable card designer and a postback endpoint. So if you're already a customer of ours and you're a little familiar with our admin tool, all the actions that we're doing in the admin tool. So for example, if you have native mobile and you have incidents and you've got an action to reassign a ticket to somebody, right? So that's an action. You get two fields, you get the team and the user. Or maybe you have an edit action where you can edit the description and the service category, subcategory, and the priority. All of those actions now we put an API endpoint in for a postback. So we added a little API section to it where you just click, you turn it to yes, and then it becomes an API postback. So that action, then you can just post back to that action through our framework, and it'll update Cherwell. So it makes it super easy because you can just design this card in our little form designer and then post back to it. So and you can also start with a card there and then use like Microsoft's adaptive card designer to enhance it and add graphics and things like I did here. But the postback, so you can either post back directly to Cherwell's webhook and then write a one step to catch the postback and process it, or if you're a customer of ours, you can just post back to our mobile endpoint, which makes it really easy. You don't have to do anything in Cherwell to make that work. So then Outlook completes the email and doesn't allow it to be reprocessed. So one of the concerns when I first started looking at these are like, how secure are these emails? Because a lot of times in the old world, you could send an email to somebody to say approve a change. Well, they could just forward it on to somebody, and whoever gets it could approve the change because basically they're just replying to the email to approve the change. So a lot of times the old way of doing email isn't that secure. You can try to secure it in the email monitor by checking to make sure that the email address from matches the person. But essentially they're not super secure because they've got you can just kind of forward those around and they never really go away. So Microsoft's built some security into the actionable messages that you'll see when I kind of run these live. So only the original recipient can submit the actionable message. So it kind of stinks because if I forward an actionable message to someone, they can't see it. They just get a blank email. It's a really weird thing that Cherwell or Microsoft's got built in and how it works. And I don't know how it works under the covers, but it's pretty neat because if I get an email and I forward it to somebody, like I did when I was first playing with these, and I was like, yeah, check this email out. Look how cool it is. And they couldn't see anything. So if you forward an email to somebody, it's just blank. It doesn't show anything. And then once the original recipient submits the email is considered completed and can't be resubmitted. You'll see what it looks like live in the email when I submit this thing. But it's a really neat technology that Microsoft's got and what they're doing submitting those emails. So for example, if you get an email for a survey, you can only submit it once. Once you fill that survey out in the email and submit it, it's done. You can't resubmit it. Um, you can't forward it on to somebody else to complete the survey for you. You have to do it right from the email. And once you submit it, it's done. So it makes it really simple to see what you've done and what you haven't done. Because if you've done the action in the email, it'll be blank. And when you go back, it won't be blank. It'll say this action's been completed. And if you go back to it, it'll say that. So it knows if you've completed that action, which is really nice if you get a bunch of these emails and are doing a bunch of work in email for Cherwell. So if you end up posting back through our framework, we've even built extra security into it because we did find out that if you get a hold of the JSON code that's actually in the header of the email, which is possible, you can take, it's pretty easy to take that email apart and look at the header and see the JSON code, and you throw that into Postman, you can actually run the postback from Postman into Cherwell. So we took it a step farther, and we provide like a one-time key for it. So we can generate a one-time use key for the postback, so for sure it can only be done one time. So even if somebody takes that JSON, sticks it in a Postman, they won't be able to run the action again. It can only be run once. So if you post back through our framework, we provide the one-time use code, and when the email's sent from Cherwell, you just request the one-time use code. It's just an API call out to our framework. You get the code, you stick it in the adaptive or the actionable message, and then we send it back to our framework, and we're tracking those, so we know, hey, if the one-time use code has been used or not. Once it's used, we throw it away, and then it's no good anymore. So something else comes in with that one-time use code, or if somebody tries to post back without it, it just won't work. And so we just added an extra layer of security. You won't get that if you post back through Cherwell. It's probably not that big of a security problem. I mean, if you're already letting people approve just by responding to an email, then this is going to be way more secure than that already. So, but we just threw that in because it was pretty simple for us to do. And just added an extra layer of security.
Eric, we've got a question that came in.
Okay.
The question is, does the Postback admin console come with SmartBot? We don't have your mobile, but I'm trying to get us to go for the SmartBot. I'd love to be able to just use your Postback option with these messages.
Yeah. Yep. Our framework. Yeah. If you have any of our products, you'll have access to the Postback in our framework. So if you've got SmartBot, we can help you set up the Postback actions. So if you've already got mobile or Kanban, you already have it. It's already there. So, and we don't, it's not an extra, right now, it's not a product that you can purchase from us. You have to purchase something else. I guess if somebody really just wanted the Postback capabilities, we could figure something out. But right now, it's just a throw in with if you have any of our products. Thanks for the question. I think I know who that is.
All right, that's all I have for now for questions.
Okay. So what are the good use cases for this, for actionable messages in email? So keep in mind, we're still sending an email, so it's still going to email. So who is this good for? So on the customer side, this is great for surveys. Probably that's kind of my initial idea was for surveys after hearing at some user groups how people were having problems getting people to respond to surveys. I thought maybe if they could just respond in their email, response rates would go up. So that's a great use case. Giving ticket updates the easy way. So for example, if you've got a ticket sitting open for a customer and you haven't heard back from them for 2 weeks, you can actually send them an email that says, hey, we haven't heard back from you. Can you just put a note in here and click submit so we know what's going on, or know if we should keep this ticket open. So instead of responding to the email or going to the portal and filling something out, they can just put a note in. Actually have that as an example. They can resolve tickets. So sometimes customers don't need a ticket open anymore. So you can give them an option to actually resolve it if they want. You can request the ticket to be reopened. So if you send a resolution email to your customer, you can have an option on there to reopen it. So if you resolve it, but they don't think it should be resolved, you can actually give them an option where they can reopen the ticket. and escalating. So some customers have, I've seen where customers give the or users, you people, companies give the customer a way to escalate a ticket. So if the SLA is run out on it, maybe, or they've got some trigger. They don't do it all the time because otherwise everybody would escalate every ticket. But if you've got some sort of a trigger where customers can escalate tickets, maybe it's fallen out of the resolution SLA or something, you can also throw that. So those are just some use cases I've seen that these are good for. And you can also send these to technicians. So it doesn't just work for customers, it'll also work for technicians. You kind of have to know who you're sending it to, so you can present them with the right action. But just adding a note to a ticket. So you might get assigned a ticket and said, hey, this ticket's been assigned to you. You could give that technician the option of adding a note. You can give them the option of changing the status, so they could change the status to either the next status in the workflow, or maybe just give them a status list. I think the one I'll show you has a list of statuses. Resolve tickets, so you can just give the technician, and if it's been assigned to them, maybe just let them resolve it right from there, and request more information from the customer. So maybe they want to request more information, so you have an option for that. And remember, all these flow back through Cherwell. So really any action that you're doing in Cherwell, you can do out of these emails. And if you're on our mobile or Kanban framework, you've probably seen that our philosophy is, hey, anything you're doing in Cherwell really is an action, and we consolidate all those actions together in one place, really, either on like a Kanban card or in like our floating action button on our mobile. So Cherwell may have them kind of scattered all over the screen, like your statuses might be a link that you click, and you might have a take ownership action, and you might click on like to assign to a user. They're kind of all over the place. So we've just kind of consolidated those and put them all in the same place, but and turned them into like one thing. Everything's an action in our framework. So if you think about anything you do in Cherwell being an action, even something as simple as like changing the status, you can make that an action, right? So you can have an action for people to change the status, so they can do that in email. All right, so let's
Eric,
take a
can you
look.
update
Yeah.
tasks through this process also?
Yep. Any object in Cherwell, doesn't matter what it is. You can update tasks, incidents, changes, problems, knowledge articles, any custom objects you have. If it's an object in your metadata editor, i.e. your Cherwell admin tool, you can get to it with a postback.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've prepared, I pre-sent me some emails just so I'd have them. So I'm going to start with a survey. So let's take a look at a survey. So I actually run Office 365. I run the browser client of Office 365. So I don't even have the desktop client for Outlook. But this will work in either. Now, one caveat with these actionable messages, if you're going to send these actionable messages to out of Cherwell, they only work in Outlook. So if I open this on my iPhone, just in my mail client, they won't work. If I want these to work on my iPhone, I have to use Outlook for iOS. Same thing with Android. You've got to use Android for iOS. So that's probably the biggest downside of these, is that if you're Office 365, probably 100% of the people are running Outlook either in a browser or in Outlook on their desktop. But once you get out to mobile, it might not be the case, right? I don't even run Outlook on my iPhone. I used to, but I switched. I don't know. I got a different phone or something, and I never reinstalled Outlook. I just use Apple's email client. So if you want this functionality, you need to be running Outlook. Okay, so let's take a look. So this is just a survey. This is tied to a survey object in Cherwell. I don't think this is Cherwell's survey object. I think I just created one from scratch. This is in our public demo system. I just did it as kind of a demo, but it'll basically work against, if you're running any type of survey in Cherwell, you can make this work. And actually design this. I designed the survey in our framework, and then it gets kicked out to here. In fact, I'm gonna pull up and show you what it looks like in our framework. What the designer looks like in our framework also. So you wouldn't have to use our framework. You could actually design this card your own using Microsoft Action Card Designer and post it back to Cherwell. We do make it super easy to design in our framework. So if I take a look at our mobile and Kanban framework, if I just go to object configurations, I have got survey right here. It's either survey or Cherwell surveys. Why do I have two? All right, so then I've got either complete an existing survey or complete a new survey. So I think I'm using complete existing. So we've got right one questions, 1, 2, 3. Nope. Maybe it's this survey. Yeah, this is the one I'm using. So we designed it here. So this card you'll see in email came from this screen. So I designed this survey here. You know, our form designer, we just drop these on the page. You just pick the question or the field out of Cherwell. You just say what it is. So for example, in this one, you know, rate the satisfaction. I've got a list picker survey 1 through 5. So you can go from here. And we actually have a way with this API access. You can actually run this little post to pull back actually the adaptive card. It's JSON. The adaptive cards are just JSON. So you can actually run this little post from Cherwell to pull back the JSON body. So make it really easy. So this is unedited. This is exactly what it looks like when it's generated from our framework, this survey. So so this survey, I got it in email. I've got drop downs and Microsoft's adaptive cards. Just in the last 6 months, they've added lots of functionality to it. So they didn't used to have type ahead searching. They've got that now. So that's something that matches up like the type ahead searching in our framework. So they're adding lots of things to these adaptive cards where there were deficiencies for some of these larger and companies for like if you have 10,000 customers and you got to find a customer if you want to create a ticket in an adaptive card. You didn't used to be able to have type ahead. You had to load all 10,000 up in a list and find it. But now the adaptive cards support type ahead. They support people finding out of Active Directory. So lots of stuff Microsoft's putting in these cards. So I've got an option here. I can just pick whatever option. Mostly I just put this on here to show the different type of widgets that you can do. I can add my comments here, and then I can check if I want to be contacted. So now the magic here is I can just submit this from here. It doesn't take me anywhere else. You can see it's working on that email like right in my email client, and it says your response has been received, right? So now I know I responded to this survey because if I go back to this email, like in my deleted items or wherever I end up putting this is what I'm going to see. I'm going to see your response has been received. Thanks. Now, an interesting thing that happens with this, it's that the integration between this and Cherwell is pretty smart. So let me pull up another email. I'll see if I can break one here. Let's see. Yeah, let me show you this. Well, let me show you this customer one first, and then I'll see if I can break it with the next one. So this is a customer email. I don't know why this doesn't show up as a box, but this is a really simple email you can send to a customer. You know, please update your ticket. Hey, we haven't heard from you back for a while. So maybe you're triggering this email off an SLA. Maybe you're triggering it, you know, based off last update date. Whatever the case is, the scenario here is you just want to ping the user and see if they have any updates for you because you're waiting on user. So we can see the status here is pending, waiting for customer. So we're sending this user a card basically for them to do something. And please update your ticket. It's been open for a while. We haven't heard back from you. Can you take a few seconds and send us an update? And your update here. So all they have to do is put an update in here. I put this visible to portal on here only because it was on there in our framework. So probably you just have that hard coded so it'd be visible in the portal. So now I've sent it. I sent this update back to Cherwell. If we can look here, I can pull this ticket up here, I think, in my little mobile. I'll pull this up and pull it over. So this is just this is the desktop version of our mobile client. It's just really easy to find tickets with. So I'm just going to use this. So you can see I've got my notes down here, and here's the note I just put in from the journal. So this posted back through our framework. Like I said, you could post it back also through Cherwell, but our framework makes it really easy. So it shows up in the ticket right away. Like it literally just updates the ticket right in the Cherwell database. You don't have to. It's instantaneous update. So that's a really easy way to get feedback back from a customer. So let's look at the third example. I've got 3 examples here of these tickets. And if I go back to this survey, so I just reopened the survey and took a look at it, and that's what it looked like. So it just stays like this forever now. Yeah, so you can tell if the action's been done or not. So if you get a lot of these emails, like if you're a manager or something and need to approve stuff and don't know if you've approved it, you'll be able to tell because that'll be in there. So yeah, I don't have an approval mail for email, or maybe I do. I didn't send myself one, but I might be able to look. I've got some approval stuff in the Teams. It works the exact same. So let's take a look at this one. It's really easy to find the one that I haven't demoed because it's the only one that's got something. So this one's similar layout to the customer one, but this is to a technician. So I've got some information on the card. You can put whatever you want on these cards. It's really flexible how these cards are laid out. And then I've got different options. So I've got, what do you want to do? You want to change the status? I can set it to a status. You want to change the priority? And this is kind of a neat feature of these cards is that, especially if you're on a mobile device, not such a big deal on a desktop. But if you're on a mobile device, you don't have as much real estate. And instead of scrolling and constantly scrolling for this, if as you select these different things, they kind of show and hide the different parts of the card. So really neat. So I've got this one set up basically where they can only select one. You can only do one of these things, but it would be really easy to change this to just have them select all 3. So if they want to choose an assignee and assign it to somebody else, so a ticket at 102493, I think that's the one I had pulled up over here. Yeah, okay. So this is assigned right now. It's assigned to me. Okay, oh no, this is 102493. I'm going to find this one and show it to you. 102. All right, so this one, here's the ticket. This is what it looks like now. We've got it's in progress. It's owned by Claire, and so maybe what we'll do is we'll change the assignee to Bruce. Let's change it to Bruce. Okay, so now the assignee is Bruce. And now it changed it to Bruce. So we just changed the own by. So you can really change any fields that you want. One thing, I was gonna break one. Let me send myself another email here for this one. Technician ticket assigned team. I'm actually just sending these out of Postman because it's a lot easier than running the scenario through Cherwell. Let's see if I can break this. I didn't set up to send in if they set it to resolve to send in closure code or completion code. Normally I would. I just didn't set it up. So I think I'm going to get an error here. Hopefully. Oh, I must not have that set up. All right, let me just see if I can break it with pending. I maybe disabled that error because if you have validation errors, it will actually come back and tell you. So let me try this other one. It'll tell you that your validation rule failed. I had that happen to me yesterday when I was kind of testing this. See if I can break it with pending. Oh, I just got a 500. Yesterday, one thing I did is I set it to in progress, and nobody was assigned to it, and it actually came back and said, "Hey, it has to be assigned to somebody before you can set it to in progress." So it will follow your validation rules, which is really nice. Problem is, you probably don't want to send an email to somebody where they could trigger a validation rule. You'd want to send the email to them with the exact statuses that they could choose that would be proper. So, for example, if it was in progress, you could send an email that would allow them to change it to pending or resolved, but probably not change it to in progress, right? Because it's already out of progress. So fortunately with Cherwell, that's pretty easy to do because Cherwell knows the status of these tickets. So, and when you put the statuses into your email code, you can have Cherwell tell the email what statuses to put in there. So makes it really simple. Okay, so those are what I've got for emails. What do we have? Do we have any questions on this email thing specifically?
I haven't seen anything come in yet.
Okay. So if you have any questions on how these emails work, or just put it in the chat, or just raise your hand, or I don't know what we do in Teams. Just speak up. Take yourself off mute, maybe, and speak up. So, and you can also have links in here. So this has got like a view in portal link. So you can still do the linking. You can still have, and you can also. One question I've had before. Well, what if they get it on their iPhone and they don't have this? You can also send out the information like in the body of this email. So down here, this is actually in the body of the email. So they'll see you must view this email in Outlook for it to work, but you could also send the rest of the email in there. So you could have this card, which will always show at the top because this is part of the header actually of the email. And then you'll have the body down here. So you could actually you could put your original email down here in case somebody doesn't have Outlook on their phone or their tablet. I'm going to just assume that everybody's running Outlook either in the web or in the client on their machine, so on their desktop or laptop. So you could have like your actionable email piece up here and your non-actionable down below, and then the user would on the desktop they'd see both, but they'd probably only look at the actionable part of it. So you could do that too. So that's definitely an option.
We did have a
Okay.
question that just came in.
Okay.
Is there an option to add additional information by replying to the same email?
Guess I don't understand that question. So for one thing, you wouldn't reply to it. If you wanted additional information, you could request it. So you could put a button on the email to request additional information. So, but keep in mind, this is a little tiny program that's running here. So you can make it do whatever you want. So you could have a button on here that says, you know, give me the full view of this incident. So maybe you've got two views. Maybe you've got this minified view, and then maybe you've got a fuller view that has all the journal entries and everything on it. You could have a button on here that says, you know, I want to request this. And what that would actually do, then it would trigger some sort of action in Cherwell that would then resend them an email, maybe in a different format. So maybe that's what you're asking. You could potentially, so if you're using the same user to send this email as that's what's monitoring your incoming email, you could potentially respond to this email and then parse that with your incoming email monitor and then do whatever you want with that also. So if somebody responds to this and puts something in there, you could do that. But I think generally, since you've got the power of this application, anything you'd want to do, you just throw a button on here and say, "Hey, do this, Cherwell," and then Cherwell would do that for you.
Okay, I did allow that person to use the mic, so if you'd like to speak up, feel free. But I do have a follow-on question.
Okay.
It says when you send user status email and they reply, it changes email to say thank you. Could they add more info later?
Yeah. I think you answered that by saying you can just add more buttons. So in addition to changing the notification saying, thank you, you've answered, I guess you could just add a button on there that says additional information to resend the email to give them the option to enter the data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
does your first email not go out with your first email goes out and it's just a notification basically. But then maybe you want them to have a way to enter data if they want to. Is that what you're saying? Like, hey, I
Well,
want to do an update, but my first email doesn't have an update
well,
form for
it's
me.
almost like the Columbo effect.
Uh
You give an answer and then you say, "Oh, one more thing."
huh. Right. Okay. Yeah. The part of the problem with these emails though is if they already answered, like let's say they get the customer one. Let me show you that customer one. Here's my customer one. Here it is. Oh, that's request card. I don't want that one. This one. So if I send this and I update it and I say, hey, I'm updating my ticket, and then they submit it, and then they say, oh no, I I want to enter something else. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
problem they're having, right? Yeah. Then so now you're kind of stuck because you can't request because you've used your email. You've used your chance. So yeah, you could set something up where if somebody responded to this, maybe you'd send them another email. That'd be easy enough to do. You can even change this to say, hey, if you so it, what you can make this say whatever you want. You could say if you want to enter more information, just reply to this email, and we'll send you another email, something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question because once you've updated your ticket, you've used your chance. You can't re-update it. So that's a good thing and a bad thing. So if you get an email if you send an email to your customer right now and they reply to it and you're parsing it out and saying and added a note or something to the ticket, they can just reply as many times as they want to that ticket, right? And they just keep adding notes. With this more interactive, um, once they reply, their ability to reply from that email is turned off essentially. So they'd have to request another email, but maybe just replying to this email address would send them another email where they could update their ticket again. So thank you for the question. Okay, so on to adaptive cards in Teams. So built on the same technology, once you kind of get into this, you'll realize that Microsoft's got adaptive cards, or they have lots of words for them. Adaptive is really the kind of the granddaddy card now. It's everything's moving to adaptive. They've got hero cards and action cards and messaging cards. I think there's like 7 different types of cards that they've got. Adaptive is kind of consolidating all those cards into one place. So adaptive is what Microsoft is moving towards. So I just call them adaptive cards. So they're across product specification for cards, including bots, Cortana, Outlook, and Windows. They're recommended for card type as new Teams development. So the adaptive card concept, it's kind of, they do work in a lot of other applications too, besides just Microsoft applications. So lots of other apps are taking this on. So like Facebook Messenger, what's some other ones? Slack. They work in Slack. So a lot of these messaging products that are out there are able to consume Microsoft adaptive cards. So that's really neat. So it's kind of a write once, send anywhere type of deal that you can do. So because so many different of these messaging systems support these, but I'm just going to focus on Teams because that's what a lot of people have. So um, they work essentially the same way. So you can send an adaptive card from a one step to a Teams chat or a Teams channel. Um, So adaptive cards also, they flow through the Graph API, which must be set up in Azure Directory. So, but if you've done a Teams integration or anything, you've probably already got that set up. Any integration you do from Cherwell to Teams is going to be through Microsoft Graph. In order to use Graph, you've got to have an application set up in Azure, and Cherwell's got a great white paper on how to do that. So we can send that to you if you want. Just request it from Laura. And we can send that over. You can get it out of Cherwell's from Cherwell's site, but with all the security that you need. So we send it from OneStep in Cherwell, and then Teams displays the card. And in some cases, the card can send data back to Cherwell. So I don't know exactly the rules. I'm still investigating. I know, and I'll show you how the bot does it, because that sends it through. I haven't been able to get these actions to work very well in the Teams chat back. I've got them to work in a Teams channel that has incoming and outgoing webhook. They work great there. In a chat, like a one-on-one or a group chat, I haven't been able to get them to work. It's not to say they can't work. I just haven't been able to get them, but I've only spent a few hours messing with that. So, and I also have a certificate issue with my demo Cherwell system. So Teams is currently telling me there's a problem. I got to get that cert fixed. So, without a bot interface, the primary use case are for messages, basically, or you can actually talk back through any channel that you've got right now that incoming or outgoing webhook, which are really easy to set up. Our smart bot that we're releasing is going to support posting messages to chats later this summer. That's like the number one thing on our roadmap for our bot, is to be able to post chats back to any conversation in Teams through this bot. So in the Microsoft world, Microsoft gives special privileges to bots in the background. So these bots, really everything Microsoft's doing around adaptive cards is really focused around the bot and how bots send. So we're actually going to open our bot up to be a conduit to sending messages to chats and things. So we'll have the full features of everything you can do in these adaptive cards when it's sent out through a bot. Right now, if you send it directly from Cherwell, it's a little, you get a little less functionality. You can't actually send a message directly to, like a group chat. You have to send it as an attachment. It still works, but it's just not as easy. It's a little messier, so it still works, but we're going to turn that bot on so you can just send it to the bot, and the bot will send it to the right place. So that's coming this summer. So let's take a look at these adaptive cards in Teams. So I'll pull up my Teams here, and I've also got Cherwell up. A lot of the integration between Cherwell and Teams you're going to do out of Cherwell. So I've basically got a group chat that I've created in Teams. Let's see, is this 102.84? Yep. So this is my group chat in Teams. So this is between me and my service account, the group chat in Teams. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send a card to this group chat. So I've got a button on here. You would probably put this, if you're trying to replace notifications or for enhance your notifications from email, you'd probably put it in the same like workflow as your email notification is. I just got a button on this because it's easy to demo then. Versus my demo box, so I show every screen here what's going on in case people want to know. All right, so then I just send it over, and boom, I get a new message. So this is a message card. I have a comment on here, but because of my certificate problem, I'm having an issue sending anything back to my Cherwell system, unfortunately. So, but this is basically how they work. I've also got another. So if you you can send it to individuals. So actually, what you might do is in Cherwell, you might have your ticket has been resolved. You can actually start a chat with an individual, that person that ticket is assigned to, and that will include this Teams integration and me. So right now I have an integration user called Teams integration user that starts all these chats up. And the Teams integration user is the one that's it's essentially sending the chat from Cherwell. So what you can do is you can start a group chat between the Teams integration user and the customer, and then you can start sending them messages. So every time the status changes, instead of sending them an email, you can send them a group chat message. So, and like, for example, this one's specific to this ticket number. So I've got 10284 group chat. You wouldn't have to be. You could have a group chat just for that user for all their tickets. So I kind of like doing one for every ticket number. So now instead of sending them an email notification that the status changed, you can actually send them an adaptive card with that says, hey, your status changed, but if you want to add a comment, click add a comment. So you kind of have the same functionality as in the email. And then these cards, they don't disappear like they do in the email. So that's one big difference for them, but they show up there. So yeah, so you can send a card, and then you can actually, like, if somebody's chatting, if they have a question, they can chat back to that. And so if you're the technician, you could add yourself to the chat. So if I wanted to add like someone else to this chat, I could add them here. So I would probably start this chat with the bot, me, and the customer, and send it, if I wanted to chat with them, or maybe I'd add myself to this group chat and then chat with the customer. But in any case, if you want to use this for notifications, previously you could only send it to like a channel and they'd have to be part of the team. But now Microsoft back in February added the capability to send basically one-on-one chats or group chats from graphs. And now you can send notifications to customers. Basically, you just start a chat with them and send them a notification. So if you have users that use Teams quite a bit, that'll probably work great for them. This is a card I sent out to a channel instead of a one-on-one chat. So you can see I've got to add a comment and change status here. So I'm letting them, set it to resolved. So this would go to a customer. You can send these to technicians too, and they can actually update their tickets like as a technician would. It really kind of depends on what your goal is and who your end user base are. So just keep in mind, this is coming back through a service account back into Cherwell. So it's going to look like the service account updated the ticket. You can actually, so all the kind of the behind the scenes fields, like the system modified user or the last update user, that's going to be the service account. So keep that in mind. You can, and I don't know, I haven't tried it in a few versions. I tried replacing that or hard coding that user in, but Cherwell still replaced it with the user that actually did the update in the background. So I think it's something that that's probably still an issue, but probably not as big of a deal if it's a customer and they come in through the bot or the email. For a technician, it might be a little bit bigger deal to not know that the technician actually did that update. You can write a journal entry that says the tech did the update, but the actual last updated by on the ticket will look like it's the integration user. So you're going to have that issue with any type of integration. So that's what it looks like in Teams. I know I must be talking a lot because I'm almost out of time here. But if we take a quick look at, if you happen to be a Gmail customer, you can do the same thing. I've just got this little GIF in here. We're not a Gmail, so I was going to set up a demo until I realized that I have to actually have all this like Gmail the infrastructure behind. I just can't use my personal Gmail account to do this. I have to have a corporate account with AppSheet and all that stuff. So it's free. It's not a cost. Like there's not a cost for up to 10 users. I'll probably end up setting one up in case we do have some customers on Gmail, so I can get this going. I just didn't have time to do it. So, but it works essentially the same way as Outlook. So this is in Gmail. They can do an approval or whatever they want there. So, and shoot, and I was going to show a few other things I just had some other, or let me send these. I'm going to send a few of these cards here so you can kind of see what they look like. I've got some neat looking cards. All right, I've got my tokens. Let me post some of these cards. Oh, I've got to switch. Hold on one second. Graph. I got to switch my graph environment. I don't have the right. Okay. Where that went. Yeah, here we go. From Teams integration user. All right, so this is a really simple card. I just sent out to me basically from Teams integration user. My printer's not printing. Please help. That's a super simple card. This is a different type of card. So this has got a picture. This is actually a hero card, but it's got a couple actions down here that you can do. There's a duck sitting on our wall, so I kind of like that one. This is another one. So I'm just shooting these out of Postman. So this is an approval. So you can actually approve or reject from here. If I click reject, it takes me down to a comment and lets me submit. If I click approve, it'll just approve it from here. So you can see, I've got an image in here. I've got a link. This links out to, Microsoft's. If you want to check it out, you can come out to Microsoft's site for their Surface Book 3. So you can do all this stuff in the card. So this is what an approval card sent out. Now keep in mind, you can make this look exactly like this in an email too, right? So anything you see in Teams, you can do with an email, and vice versa. Anything you see in the email, you can do in Teams. I kind of designed them separately, but they'll work. What do I have for this last one? Oh, I guess I have two pending approval ones. Okay, so I guess those are the ones that I have. So that's the type of card you can do. So it's a little more modern looking. It's interactive. You can interact with it. Back to Cherwell. You can put pictures in there. You can really do whatever you want. Microsoft got Designer for this. That's really easy, drag and drop. And then you can actually design some of these cards. We don't have all the fancy graphics and stuff in our little card designer, but you can take the card we kick out and you can throw it in a Microsoft designer, and then you can throw graphics and whatever you want in there. It'll still work. We just kick out a little framework. So are there any questions about, I guess, anything?
We do have one comment / question that came in. It said Office 365 has a 10K recipient limit per day for emails from each unique mail account used for notifications. What teams hit the same type of limit?
Not that I know. I've never heard of that limit for Teams. The only limitations I know about for Teams is a 200 channel a month creation per team. Like you can only create 200 channels a month. But these chats that you're sending out to people, I've never heard of a limitation. So you might want to ask your Teams or Office 365 admin. I know there are different tiers of Office 365. Like, for example, we're an E3, but I know there's like an F tier and multiple like an E5 tier. So there's multiple tiers also of Office 365. So they may have limitations by tier. I'm just not aware. I've never heard of that limitation. The 10,000 one I've heard of in Outlook, but not on Teams. Because think about, Teams treats this just like you're chatting to your other technician or whatever. Teams treats that just like a chat message. So I can't imagine they've got any restrictions on it, because this is literally just like me typing here and saying hi. So this and this is the same type of message. This just has an attachment on it that happens to be an adaptive card.
Okay, thanks. I don't see any other questions in our chat here. If you do have questions, please enter them now, as our webinar is just about to end. So we'll leave the line open for a minute or two. Or if you have questions and you'd like to visit directly with Eric, you can let me know that as well in the chat, and I would be happy to unmute you so you can talk directly to Eric with any questions you may have. Any final thoughts or comments, Eric, before we wrap things up?
No, thanks everyone for joining. This is really kind of new territory and interesting. I haven't seen a lot of customers doing this yet, but hopefully customers will start. I just wanted to give you some ideas of what was possible. I do know there are some customers out there using Microsoft Bot Framework to do some things in Cherwell. So that's an option for you. But if you just want to do these notifications, the email ones are probably the simplest to do because you're probably already sending out emails. But I think Teams is a really good option too. And I've been talking to some customers about how much they want to use Teams and how much more they want to use Teams, and can use Teams as a replacement UI for Cherwell. And in a lot of cases, I'm going to say, yeah, you can. Having developed multiple UIs for Cherwell from scratch, developing one in Teams isn't that difficult, So I think for a lot of your technicians, they could use Teams as their UI for Cherwell instead of the Cherwell or Avanti user interface, and they can update tickets, close tickets, create tickets from Teams. So I think Teams is probably going to overtake email in the next few years as like the messaging platform of choice because it is so much more interactive than email. So I hope to see some customers demo some cool, really cool use cases at user groups in the next year or two.
Great, thanks. I don't see any other questions. Just as a reminder, we did record today's session. We'll be uploading it to our website and it should be available in the next day or two. So everyone on this call will receive an email with a link to view and share that presentation. Thanks for joining us. If you have any ideas of future sessions you'd like to see or topics you'd like us to dig into further, we're always looking for session ideas for future advanced practitioner calls. So feel free to enter any ideas you have in the chat. We'll leave that open for a few minutes as we're concluding. But thanks again for joining us. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.